welcome to this episode of Spotlight on Policy. My name is Stephanie Witt, and I'm the director of the Public Policy Center at Boise State University. Today I'm joined by Dr. Jim Weatherby, Professor Emeritus at Boise State University. We'll be discussing a new white paper on initiatives and tax policy affecting local governments in 8 western states. This white paper will complement part of our upcoming book, The Urban West Revisited, and covers 8 western states: Idaho, Oregon, Washington, Colorado, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, and California. A key to understanding our paper is talking about the use of direct democracy in the 8 western states. Most of these states were created around the time of the Progressive Reform Movement in the early 1900s, and most of them included the direct democracy tool of the initiative. Jim, let's talk a little bit about the initiative. Could you explain the major differences in how the initiatives are structured?
Well, in these 8 western states, and Oregon was the first state in the Union to use this tool, they are either statutory changes or they're constitutional amendments. Idaho somewhat stands out here in that the Idaho Constitution cannot be amended through the initiative process, but many of the initiatives we'll be talking about today are constitutional amendments in states. So those limitations are enshrined in that Constitution. Those that passed in the early 90s are still part of the Constitution and still part of the revenue discussion in these states as they move forward to try to balance their budgets as well as they face new propositions in the fall.
Well, let's start with a little history of the property tax revolt that used those initiative processes. Most people point to Proposition 13 in 1978 in California as the beginning. Tell us a little bit about initiatives and their use in that property tax revolt.
Well, Prop 13 is the key initiative that passed in 1978. 1970s was a period of high inflation, huge increases in property tax valuations. Prop 13 passed in June of 1978. In November of 1978, Idaho's 1% initiative passed. It wasn't fully implemented. We don't have time to go into that today, but really the opening shot of the property tax revolt was the passage of Prop 13. That affected many other states, but Idaho as directly as any.
And in this white paper, we tried to bring forward that history from 1990 to 2009 to talk a little bit about the number and types of further tax limitation measures that have been passed. What are some of the high points that you and I found when we wrote that paper, Jim?
Well, we look at a number, and there is a significant range from the Proposition 13, which was a rate limitation, a 1% limitation on the ability of local governments to collect property taxes. In other states like Idaho, we did struggle initially with the 1% initiative, but what we have in Idaho today that was passed ultimately by the legislature in 1995 is a budget limitation, where local governments may certify up to a 3% increase or exceed that given growth or annexation actions.
So when property tax is the focus of the limitation, either by the initiative or the legislature, they're either limiting the rate, the assessment of the home's value, or the levy, the amount.
And the assessment is the one thing I didn't touch on, and that is, again, goes back to California and I think some other states where California's Prop 13 has a 2% limit on the increase in valuation, which has had a significant impact up until now, where who could have forecast in 1990 or in 1978 that property values would actually go down as we're experiencing today.
Thanks, Jim. I appreciate your background on all of these initiatives. We hope that you'll take a moment and have a look at our full report that is housed at our website. You've been listening to Spotlight on Policy. My name is Stephanie Witt. Thank you for joining us.